Hey, Bayek, it's me, Ian, and in today's video, yes, it's another Hammer film, of course, and it is Demons of the Mind from 1972. Now, originally, this had the working title of Blood Will Have Blood. Yes, that's a great title, isn't it? Right. Now, I would say this is perhaps a very controversial film. I also notice there's no Rotten Tomatoes score on this. It's a film I've heard people talk about on YouTube even. It's kind of dismissed and not really like that much, and it is very much an odd kind of film for Hammer. It's an oddity, but a very worthwhile oddity. Yes, it's dark and it's uncomfortable, but there's something about this nightmare gothic tale, you could say, because it's got a lot of different elements in it. And okay, some may not be, well, as you'll see, what people are comfortable with. They're not, but it's not meant to be a comfortable film. No, it's not meant. And that does make it, to some extent, rather an oddity. But I think it's interesting because the director is Peter Sykes. And also, he directed the last Hammer film, To the Devil, a Daughter, which I've talked about quite a while ago in a review, which I really liked. He represents that newer kind of Hammer director who is looking around to see which direction Hammer should go in his interpretations, and he wants it to move more in to what is currently happening. He doesn't just he wants to move away from the Gothic period and into the modern world. Even though this is clearly not set in the modern world, but there's a lot of very interesting ideas going on, a lot of psychology, a lot of psychoanalysis, even, as well as the horror. You've even got like kind of the slash elements and everything about it. But we'll talk about a bit more about that. It was written by Christopher Wickens, based on a short story by Frank Goodwin. Now, I think it's quite clear that the short story and the script originally had this element of a werewolf story, but for some reason the distributors didn't really want another werewolf story. So there are moments in the script when clearly they are mentioning a werewolf idea. The ideas are coming across, but no, it's not a werewolf movie. So again, where do you categorize it? That's the thing. I think that may be the problem. People don't know. Even Hammer, perhaps. I think they were wondering what they were going to do with this film. I think even to this day, it doesn't always sit comfortably within the Hammer catalogue. And yet I think it should do, and not just be dismissed and thrown away, because that's what it sometimes feels like, what I've heard people's comments about this film. I think it's an enjoyable film that is not afraid to go where it wants to go, and all the power to it as a film for that, and I enjoy that. I think it's good. there's an excellent cast in this. Robert Hardy, who's really a television kind of actor, plays Zorn. He's the sort of troubled character who believes that he's passed on this thing to his children. He's acting. I think he really goes for it as well. He looks like he's actually giving him, some people say, an over the top performance, but I think it works well. Then Shane Bryant as Emil gives a very sort of quite interesting performance. It's a very sort of evil almost, even though on appearance he doesn't look evil. And that's an interesting portrayal. And the violence is very interesting. But again, I have to be careful not to give too much away, but because I think it would spoil it, this film, telling you exactly what is going to happen in this film. Also, I think you're guessing as well in this film. Anyway, we'll talk a bit more about that. But anyhow, with Jillian Hills plays Elizabeth. She was most famously in Blow Up, 1966. Excellent film. She was in that. She's brilliant here. She's often playing this rather drugged out character who's confused, isn't sure really what's going on, and he's being manipulated to some extent. You'll see in the film. Then we've got Yvonne Mitchell playing Hilda. Now, Yvonne Mitchell was in the TV adaptation of 1984 from 1954, starring Peter Cushing. Yes. Notice that Peter Cushing and Sir Christopher Lee were not considered for this film. I think that was a deliberate thing. They wouldn't have probably been interested. Apparently Dirk Bogarde was approached, but he wasn't interested. That would have been an interesting casting. Same as that Jillian Hills, it was said that they'd first approached Marianne Faithfull. You'll see a connection here, but apparently they were, in the end, they chose Jillian Hills, which I think is a good choice. Then, why I say the connection is Paul Jones plays Carl Richer, who's the other doctor, the younger sort of more heroic kind of character, you could call him. Now, he was famous, of course, Manfred Mann. Yeah, so see a pop singing connection there. Also, I've actually seen him live in the blues band. He's still following the blues. I think he still does things like that. But yeah, so he's very interesting, getting an acting career. Then we've got Patrick McGee playing Falkenberg. Now, Patrick McGee, sorry, Patrick, I nearly got mixed up there. Patrick McGee is an interesting character who I see popping up in all sorts of roles in horror films. But what is interesting, if we look at the time period that he's in, Clockwork Orange from 1971, so he appeared in that before made this film. And then he's working for Kubrick again in Barry Lyndon. So there's an interesting there, but just look at his filmography. I'm getting things mixed up. Filmography of Patrick McGee, and you'll be very fascinated by some of the films that he's appeared in. And he's always gives a great performance. And then I'd just like to mention Michael Harden. Yes, he plays the priest, and it's a totally crazy role. He's just going around as the mad priest, working on the mob, if you want to call it like that. Michael Harden, who's known in all sorts of television appearances, goes right back. Just an amazing actor, Michael Harden is. But I suppose he's quite underused in a way, but in this film, but he's there, and it's always an interesting. When he's on the screen, it's very interesting seeing him. I love that sort of thing. There's always in a Hammer film a mob, isn't there, that lead the way, you know, to the end. We always get, there still is a certain formula, because, I mean, we've got the coach, you know, the coach driving through on the scenery, you know, through the forests and woodlands, and we always get that in a Hammer film, and it's here as well. And you always get the village. The only thing I don't think we've got an inn this time. He's moved away from the inns. You always get an inn in Hammer films, but not in this one. But you get the locals, you know, so what's going on. I mean, the story, if you put it down to it, is this Zorn character, he's a wealthy widower, has 2 grown-up children who he keeps locked up. He's afraid that the madness is going to be passed on. This is where we get the blood business. And because basically his wife went mad, and in front of the children, those 2 children, she committed suicide. That is the sort of disturbed nature. And he invites this doctor, played by Patrick McGee, who's a bit dodgy to say the least, got a very dubious reputation for his methods, but he invites him there. So we have that. Then we've got these murders going on, grotesque, gory murders going on around the village. And of course, that is, as usual, disturbing elements of what is going on, you know, who is responsible. And of course, in Hammer films, you always point to the Manor House. You know, wherever there is somewhere or a castle, you always point there. Oh yeah, incidentally, the use of this Manor House is fantastic. That they actually filmed on location. It's wonderful. Again, I think what I love about this film is you've got the interiors as usual, which are brilliant, but there is quite a bit more location work as well, and it really, the direction again is fantastic. The way they use the locations, the limited locations again, because you keep saying it's a low budget, and it is a low budget. So when the priest Michael Harden arrives, as usual, the mob is worked into a frenzy, and as these murders are going on, and that's out of the story. But because it's much more complicated than that as ever, there's so much going on in this film. I mean, you've got folk horror elements in. There's some great scenes with these like children involved in this sort of ceremony, this old pagan, you can see it's a pagan kind of ceremony, and that's very, very good. It's the way it's done. You see, you've got that element on. Then you've got, as I say, the psychology and the psychoanalysis. We get involved in areas of Freud and Jung, and it's all there. And then, top of that, we've got the sexual side. There's incest, quite clear incest. There's, I say there's quite a bit of gore in this film. You could almost say slasher kind of gore. And there's the normal nudity. The nudity now in Hammer films is quite, it's open, it's there because of the censors. The censors are, I mean, the censor at one time would never have let this through. Not certainly with the things that are involved here. I think, if I'm honest, I think a lot of people get put off by this mixture. They don't know what the film is actually about, really, and they don't know when they're watching it what is going to happen. And I think that's a good kind of thing. And who is the real villain in this film? And what is going on. I think that is an interesting, and I think that adds to it. It adds a lot to this film. I think it's well worth watching. If you don't be put off by these people. If you're a Hammer fan, give this a good chance. Okay, it doesn't always fit nicely into the canon of Hammer films, but I love it. I love it, and I'm not afraid to say it. Like, I do tend to like films that a lot of people are criticizing and don't like, but I think this is a good film. This is a good film and well worth watching. Just a quick word. I've got another slipcover here. It's 2 discs. We've got the Blu-ray, a DVD. It's got a very good documentary. Excellent documentary on here. I suspect again in the future they may go more deeper into this film. The documentary is excellent, well worth watching. I think it may clear up a lot of things as well when you watch it. It certainly gave me another insight into this film when I was watching it. Okay then, so please subscribe, because then I can let you know when I'm producing these videos. You'll get a notification. Also, if you like it, please give it a like. It costs helps with all algorithms, so to say, and gets this video hopefully more views that people can actually enjoy it. That's what we're here for, to try and enjoy and discuss films and look at things. That's it. Whatever turns you on, really. So all I've got to say is, I'll see thee, and I'll see thee again.